This is Pyrrha, my 7-month-old Great Pyrenees. She'll be joining us at the shop a lot. She may eventually take some trips to Florida. Pyrrha, sit. She'd like to introduce herself to everyone. So, she'll be causing terror in the background. Want to do it again? Oh, high five? No, there we go. So, that's Pyrrha. Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared, and this is Wrench Every Day. So today, we were going to try to do a little bit more on Honda Rousey, but we're running into problems getting some of the materials we need, getting some of the pipe to build subframe mounts, the sheet metal for the firewall, to rebuild that, to accept the new pedal assemblies. It's just difficult to get things right now, and unfortunately, the rally's actually been delayed from the end of April, which is the right decision given how unsure we are with everything. So instead today, since we have most of the parts that we need to actually get this car together, we're gonna spend a little bit of time with my 91 Twin Turbo R Supra. This is my 1991 Twin Turbo R Supra. Wow. Imported from Japan. Other than its filth, it's one of the nicest that I've ever seen come in the country. It still has the factory front lip, the brake cooling ducts. They have larger intercoolers from the factory, bigger sway bars, just lots of really cool bits and pieces. Unfortunately, I've not been able to enjoy this for a while because the transmission's out of it.
The R154?
The R154. I had a customer desperately needing a gear set, and we could not find one. So I took apart the car I absolutely love.
Okay, hold on. So a customer needed a part for a car and you took it out of your own car.
Yeah. Kind of like how I gave my transmission up to help someone out. Brandon, you know him from Controlled, we've done the dyno video, he pops up a fair bit. He's being an amazing friend and actually loaning me his R154 transmission. Now it is out of his drift car project, which is buried, unfortunately, kind of like my Silver Supra project. They just sit. They're not super high priority. It's not going to come out anytime soon, and there's a good chance I'm going to have my transmission in time and we'll be able to get this back to him. So this is the Toyota R154 transmission. It's what comes stock in the Turbo Supras. His was set up to fit in the IS300, so he has what's called a remote shifter housing. This is the stock housing for a 3rd generation Supra right here, and this is where the shifter would install. But because of how the transmission tunnels work on those cars versus these cars, you actually have to move the shifter position. So we're gonna have to pull this housing and change the shifter rod that's inside, but in order to do that, we'll actually pull the back case off. Since we're pulling the back case, anytime you split an R154, the bolts pass through and sandwich, so there's a good chance this will come loose. So it's worth to go ahead and open the whole case. And since he's giving it to us for temporary use, I'm gonna go ahead and clean, service, inspect, make sure it's as good a condition as possible before it goes in. So this is just a good therapy day for me to get this thing together. So we'll need to change a couple speed sensors and set this up to accept a mechanical speedometer drive. And one other thing I'm actually going to do as well is change out the rear differential. The Twin Turbo R Supras came with what's called a Torsen rear differential for the limited slip function, where it has a gear set that's very robust, and that's how it keeps both wheels spinning together. The downside to that style is if you ever have one wheel slightly unloaded and it's not making full contact to the ground, it can spin and act like an open differential. This one here is from the standard US spec cars, which is a limited slip using a clutch. It's a clutch style limited slip. So it will pretty much always spin both wheels until those clutches are worn out. Now they do allow the wheels to spin at slightly different speeds by using friction modifier in the oil, which causes those clutches to slip a little bit against each other. So if you want a really bindy, grabby rear differential, if you're doing a lot of slides or drag racing, you can actually run lower amounts of friction modifier to give a little bit bigger bite. This is also a 3.90 gear ratio where the car has a 410. So what it's going to do is make it a little bit slower on acceleration, but give it a higher top speed and a lower cruising RPM. So we're going to drop and change the rear differential so we can have a clutch style limited slip instead of the Torsen. We're going to take this apart, get it cleaned up, change shifter housings. Oh, well, that's something to find in a transmission. You know it's a good transmission when it's full of rat poop. Sometimes saving a little bit of work by not pulling something out that you know you should makes it a lot more difficult and dangerous. So I really didn't want to pull the exhaust, and had I pulled it, it would have dropped perfectly out without any issues like I've done so many times before, but trying to save 2 minutes cost me 10. So it's not always best to take a shortcut. We'd managed to get the differentials out. Here it is. Obviously it's a little bit dirtier than our nice brand new one. So I have it completely assembled in what's called a carrier assembly. This is a torsion center section I have out of another one. This is the Silver Supra's old clutch style limited slip, and this is the new one that we have going in. So we can kind of go over differential operation real quick. So when you have a torsion, you can grab the rear output flange and they spin opposite. This is a behavior like an open differential would have. Then you come over to the clutch, and when you grab it, everything turns almost as if it's locked up. And that's how you know there's a tight or good working clutch style limited slip. And the reason a torsion behaves that way is it needs an equal load on all of its inputs and outputs. So you need to have an input, and then you have to have this connected to both wheels in order for it to actually do its torque splitting, torque biasing as designed. So if we come in and actually turn the input, it will turn both outputs, but we can then hold one and it would start acting open. And the way that works is you have this gear assembly, and again, as long as there's equal loads, it will bias and apply the power to both wheels. But if you're on a road course and lift a tire off the ground, that will then actually start taking almost all the power and behave like a open differential. You really need to have the wheels loaded for it to work correctly. On a clutch style differential, I've already got the bolts out here, you have the load plate, you have the clutch, ooh, that was close. You have the clutch stack here, and this is when you apply friction modifier. This is what actually has to slip, and that's what allows the differential action. You lift this spider plate, and you have the spring assembly. Underneath here, this is your spring. And as long as that is applying and pushing into the spider plate through these clutches and into the case, this is effectively locked. Once you take all that tension off, this may not because it's a little rusty, these will spin and act like an open spider, but they're bound up. So you can get additional limiting slip, lockup factor with these by either shimming your spring, changing this to a higher spring tension, or increasing the thickness of your clutches. So those are your big difference between the torsion. This is a little bit better for drifting, heavy road course use. You want the wheels almost locked up. There's more to these. You have one-way, 1.5, two-way differentials, and that refers to ramp up angles on the pins and springs. It's a lot more technical that maybe we can do just an episode where I have a couple different clutch style differentials in front of me. Judging by Pira's current reaction, that's enough of the technical information. So we're gonna go ahead and get started taking apart the RN54, removing the parts that make it fit the IS300, get the parts on that I need to fit into the Toyota Supra of mine. Picked up so I actually got some gloves, new razor blades, some gear oil and everything from Advance. Thank you, Sergio. Good luck with your 240 with that 1UZ. I want to actually see it hopefully one day at the shop. I know how those project cars go. Fortunately, the silver one there, they get done eventually and you get to finally bring them out. We're gonna set up and I will pick up a few things you wanna be very careful of when you're working on an R154. I used to see happen a lot at the shop. First one being is this right here. There is a spring and detent for one of your shift rails right here. Everyone forgets about it and they will take this rear case off, they lose it, and they will put it back together without it and it doesn't work correctly. So you need to make sure to take that off first. Since we're not actually stripping the full gear set down, these springs behind these covers, behind those shift detents, we don't need to remove them. We're only pulling the cases off, cleaning the cases, and then reassembling. So those can all actually stay in place. We're gonna pull this, pull one bolt, pull this series of bolts, pull the bell housing off, and then there's some bolts and clips in the front, and we'll get the case taken apart. So if you ever put one of these together, make sure you use thread sealer, not red Loctite. You're gonna have to grab a different plug. This thing broke 2 sockets, would not come loose, and we finally got her pulled out. But thread sealant or a very small coating of FIPG, not permanent Loctite on your service parts. That's never a good idea. We'll see, the spring should come out. There's a spring and the check ball. So I've seen a lot of these transmissions come in with shifting problems because those balls fall out if you just pull this case off without taking the steps to make sure to remove that first. Alright, so we've got the transmission exposed, cases cleaned up real quick. I think a lot of that oil residue was the wrong silicone was used. There's lots of different types of form-in-place gaskets. The transmission from Toyota calls for their red FIPG. It always stays a little bit wet and it dries differently than the engine oil, the black FIPG. So always make sure you're using the right sealants for the application on whatever you're working on. There's so many different formulations and they look the same, but they all actually behave just a little bit differently. So this is a 5-speed transmission. You have an input shaft. This is what connects to your clutch, which drives from the engine that comes in, and then you have all of these shift forks that will select gears. This is your output shaft. That's where your drive shaft connects to, and it goes to a rear differential. So as you're driving along and you select a gear, this is where your selector shaft, which is actually in the housing that connects to your shifter, goes in, and it slots up and down between these 3 sections to then push or pull this forward to select a gear. As that happens, you will have this shift fork. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. Probably not. Nope. All right. Maybe if we push. Nope. Okay. Something's not quite sitting at home. These all have little built-in locks to keep you from selecting 2 gears, and my guess is because we have all the detent, something's not quite perfectly at home and it's trying to, the transmission thinks we're double selecting. But as this hub slides, this brass here, that is your synchronizer ring. That's what wears in these transmissions. But as this comes forward, it catches this, and then there's a cone on the gear, and it starts to slow down or speed up the gear you're trying to engage, so the hard metal parts can lock in. These teeth are actually what this cone locks into to fully engage a gear. Now the R154s have a problem. There's one part right here called the thrust washer that break quite frequently. And looking at this gear at how it looks almost brand new, my guess is that thrust washer broke, damaged this gear, it got replaced, and then it has one upgraded bearing plate. You also can replace, these are called a shift fork. They're made out of a cast aluminum that's a little bit fragile. They'll wear and break and shatter. There's billet upgrades for that. Again, Brandon ran it for a long time like this, no issues. We're stock horsepower, and I'm not gonna be beating on it, so we're gonna be perfectly fine. One other thing we can show real quick before we actually put this all back together. I'm sure if you've driven a manual transmission car, you have heard that ridiculous kind of grinding if you get into reverse a little too quickly. This is your idler gear for reverse, and this is what actually is pushed forward and engages into here. And if you look, there's no synchronizer teeth. Most manual transmissions do not have a synchronized reverse, which means as you're putting it forward, if there's any spin left in the shaft, as that goes forward, they're gonna grind and then just slam and mesh a little bit. So that's why you'll get that real kind of rough grinding sound as you put in. And you can actually look, if it'll focus, you can see how those teeth are a little bit worn from that happening. That's not a reason ever to trash a gearbox, a grinding reverse. It just means making sure you come to a complete stop before putting it in. So we're gonna go ahead, get sealant on the cases, get the right, oh, let's remember that, why we're doing this. So this is the part that your shifter sets into. And again, as you can tell, how much longer that has been extended. That is done custom. There's a bunch of different companies that do it, different jigs. You have to be careful because a lot of times when they're done, if you look inside the base, this one was done well, you see a bunch of grinding because they get this angle a little bit off and that shifter grinds and catches in the housing. So we'll put it back together with the standard stock setup so it'll fit the car. Right sealant, so hopefully it won't leak oil, and then we'll actually prep to put it in the car. I prefer filling these once they're in the car, especially since you had it out. The shifter is going to be loose. At fluid pumps, there's not a lot of room to go through the normal fill hole, and you can actually just pour it right down into the shifter hole. So we are dressed out, ready to go into the car. I used the bell housing that came from my car. They're the same that we had, but I figured just keep the same to the car. We've got the short shifter, the Mark III chassis reverse sensor, the mechanical speedometer drive, and the clutch slid in. So this looks different than most cars when you see a clutch installed. Normally it would be put onto the engine first and then the transmission slid in. This actually uses what's called a pulling style clutch, and there's a clutch hub in there where the slave cylinder pushes from the back of the car and will actually pull the springs rearward. If you leave that entire assembly attached, it's very difficult to actually get the transmission clear of the engine because it sticks so far off the back of the engine. So you go ahead and slide it on first, and you have these two real nice big easy access windows to get in there and put your clutch bolts in. So it's a little cumbersome having to rotate the engine around and do it in car, but you don't actually have to worry about lining splines up as you're fighting with the weight of the transmission because they're lined up. That just goes into the pilot bearing hole. So we're gonna get the car up, lifted safely, get underneath and start sliding that back in and maybe actually get to drive this thing again. All right, so we're back from under the car, looking great with stuff falling in my hair. I got reinforcements. Brandon's here. He's doing the interior stuff. He was helping rotate the engine around to get the clutch bolted down. It's fully connected all the way through. We have got the cube shifter. He's getting ready to work on put that last little bit of shifter. We need to put the intercooler pipe and battery back on. And then, since everything has been off for so long and the transmission was just fully drained, we're gonna actually run it with the wheels off the ground through all the gears, let the gear oil actually have a chance to slosh, throw up onto everything and make sure it's fully lubricated. So all we've got to do is connect here and here. That was loose to let the engine tilt. And I get to finally hear this thing after, God, it's been a year. So, and also, he's never even heard it.
It's gonna be money.
Battery charger's running. Everything is together. Interior's together. Brandon's standing there. So we're gonna climb in carefully. Parking brake down. We got the key. Oh. Wiper blades, of course, always on as things get moved around. Okay, neutral. Oh, you turn that to boost.
I gotcha.
All right, we might have to let it charge a little bit. Yeah, all right, let's pick that up with a fresh charge.
I got a jump box in the truck.
Okay, now we're trying again. We got a little bit more voltage. So, oh, there she goes. Running nice and smooth. What do you think?
Sounds good. So quiet.
First gear. I love this cube shifter. I am not a fan of short shifters on the RN54, and Brandon pulled one out and went back to stock, and he's even commented how good this one feels. So, all right, letting out slowly. Speedometer's coming up. Rolling first gear. Third. Fourth. Little gear whiny. Yeah, diff was full. So we're gonna let it kind of run through, see if that diff will quiet up. I'm excited. I get to drive this thing again. Brandon actually likes how it sounds too.
Quietest one to ever heard.
All right, so now we're doing our first drive to see how that differential works and the transmission works. It actually feels really good to be back behind the wheel. A little, it takes a second or two to get used to being back on the right side of the car and centering on a white line instead of a yellow line. But it is back and quick. Again, it's not a fast car, it's a quick car. By modern standards, there's much faster things. But this is enjoyable. we're back from that drive. The pinion bearing is making a little bit of noise still. I may not be able to run this differential, which is a little bit of a bummer. We're gonna drive it, see if it wakes up, quiets up a little bit. If not, I may take the LSD portion of this diff, put it back into the factory 410. What I was happy with is how well the car still pulled on the 390. We were able to rip up and hit speed, no problem. It looks great, absolutely filthy, but still looks good. So I appreciate you hanging out today. This has been Wrench Every Day. I'm Jared, reminding you to always make questionable choices. And when your friend offers you use of his tranny, go ahead and take it.